Alrighty, so let's talk about investing in multifamily. Okay. First off, what questions do you guys have regarding investing in multifamily, how you find the deal, what is a deal, so on and so forth? Do you guys have any questions regarding that?
Not at the moment, but I think as we go along, questions will arise.
So there's two things to consider when talking about finding a deal. Sebastian, you asked me earlier, how can I help? How can I get more involved? And the answer is find me a deal. Okay. And I can go into what it is to find a deal when it comes to residential. When it comes to commercial, the underwriting process is a little different. Okay. It's more driven based on financials and income versus, hey, let me go find 4 different eightplexes that are completely renovated so I can find out what the value of my property is. Does that make sense? So for example, okay, here is a property that we're analyzing, okay? This property is completely destroyed. It has violations. It has to pass its 40-year inspection. As you can see, it's in pretty bad shape, right?
how many units is this?
This is an 8-unit,
Okay.
legal 8-unit with the city, 8 meters. And the way to know what something is legal versus illegal is by the amount of meters it has. If you have 1 meter and they're calling it a fourplex, it's not a legal fourplex. It's a single family that they're basically making into a multifamily illegally, right? So take a look here. Here's an example of a unit that's in pretty bad shape and needs a full renovation. And we'll dive into the numbers and to decide what makes this a deal, okay? But just wanted to give you an idea of what the condition is inside.
You mentioned two things that I want to talk about. The first one is the 40-year inspection, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
What is that?
In commercial real estate, you have an inspection that's required every 40 years. It's basically a safety check. They want to make sure that the electrical is up to date, the plumbing is up to date. They want to make sure that you have fire sprinklers. Basically, it's for the safety of the people living there and for the public. Because if a building gets run down pretty bad after 40 years and doesn't get serviced, it could be a hazard, right? So 40-year inspection is basically like an inspection report. And once you pass a 40-year inspection, then banks will also give you lending. It's hard to get lending if you don't have a 40-year. And then also the city gives you violations if you don't have a 40-year for a period of time. So there's the building. You saw the inside of it. So what constitutes a deal? Okay. All the meters were taken out of it, which means, hey, this place is unsafe. So the city comes in and they pull all their meters out. Okay. More pictures. All right. So let's dive into what we're going to do. But before we do that, here's what the executive summary is. Okay. Coastal Capital is essentially the investment partner here, offering an investment opportunity. And we're basically, in exchange for the investment of $142,400, we're going to give back 10% of equity in the property. We're going to pay a 7% preferred dividend, meaning while we're constructing this project, while we're fixing up the property, the investor's going to get 7% on their money while they wait. And then once we start to get income, then that's going to offset that. And then it's always going to be either 7% as a minimum they're going to get or more, depending on what the net operating income is. Okay. Once we get the property occupied and stabilized at 50%, we're going to go ahead and refinance the property. And when we refinance the property, we're going to get a refinance amount of about 75%. Once we get 75% back, I'll show you in the illustration on the actual spreadsheet of how that works and how you're able to get your money back and still have 10% stake in the property. So while you have your 142,000 in, you're getting 7% of your money, kind of like a CD, right?
Let me ask you that 7%, the investor is going to get it from the beginning till the end of the project.
They're going to get it from the beginning until they get their money out. Okay.
Okay.
So they're always going to either get 7% or they're going to get the net operating income, whichever one's greater, but no less than 7%.
Okay.
And then, of course, this is the team compromise to put this together. Myself, managing member, Rita, asset manager, and Angelo coming with, over 14,000 units of multifamily experience. And together combined, we're executing this project. Okay. Of course, the idea is to maximize the use of each unit. And the way we're going to do that is by making it a modern, updated feel. And that's going to generate, hopefully, the highest return on rents as possible. Because remember, the higher the rents, the higher the value of the building. Okay, remember that. Now, let's take a look at, and this is where the subject property is. As you can see here, by 95, and then this other stuff that's very attractive to the building. We got the design district not too far away. We got Midtown, we got the fashion district, we got the Wynwood district, all that within essentially a couple miles away.
Where it's located, it's like the hood, or is it like a nice area?
It's interesting you say that, because in that whole entire area, what you're having is a transition happening. And the transition is the Wynwood district used to be the hood, okay? And then what they did is they took all those warehouses and started to change it and make it a trendy hippie destination, right? People want to go and they want to have drinks and they want to hang out and they want to see art and they want to be there, spend their money there, right? That used to be the hood. The design district used to be the hood. It was terrible. Then they decided to build, the malls and the shopping, and then all of a sudden it became a trendy hippie destination. As you can see with the trend where it's headed, okay, it's kind of headed up that track, up that way. So we're right there in the middle of all the action, the Buena Vista area. Buena Vista's right here, the Buena Vista area. So it's kind of moving towards there, where in that area, you'll see some houses that are really nice, and you'll see some houses that somebody's lived there 30, 40 years. 30, 40 years ago, there was no fashion district, there was no Wynwood, there was no design district. So the new people moving into that area are not the same people that have lived there for a long time. It's up and coming, right? So here is our spreadsheet. This is what we call the pro forma. Does anybody have any questions about what a pro forma is, or do they understand what a pro forma is?
What I understand is that it's the breakdown of everything, all the numbers that come into effect to value if it's a good deal or not, or a really good deal.
Right.
Right?
So, exactly. So for example, if we look here, okay, we're buying this, as you can see up at the where it says purchase price of $730,000. We're buying this for $730,000. Okay. How do we know that's a good deal or a bad deal? I'm going to break that down in a minute. Okay. So what we're doing is we're buying this at $730,000. We're getting financing at 20% down. And then essentially our rehab costs are going to be about $484,000. What is included in that? Rehab interior, which is $125,000. The shell, which is everything exterior on the building, including the roof, windows, doors, AC, plumbing, and electric. We have a preferred dividend, what we're going to pay our investors. That's 7% we talked about. Permit and engineering, construction admin fee, contingency, which is if we go over on the budget, the perimeter fence, laundry machines, landscaping, exterior stucco, driveway leasing fee, which is what we pay realtors once we start to lease out the unit, how much we're going to pay in utilities while we're keeping the units vacant. Promotional holding costs, which is basically what we're going to pay to hurry up and get tenants in there. And then a violation, which we got to clear for $5,000. A total of $484,360. So as you can see here, under the villas at 47, the total rehab budget is $484,360. We also have holding costs, which is how much we're going to be paying in interest while we're getting the property renovated and there's no income coming in. 59,740. So total cost when it's all said and done, total requirement is $712,000. Okay. Now, how do we get an investor to come in with $142,000 and cover that $712,000 nut? And that way we're able to do that is by leveraging hard money. We get hard money to give us 20% of the rehab cost and 20% of the purchase price. So if the place costs us $730,000, we only have to put $146,000 down and he'll finance the rest. Then we have closing costs, which are about $21,900. Then we have the rehab costs, and then we have holding costs. Now, if you offset the total cost of $712,000 minus the draws, which is what the hard money lender is going to give us of $320,000 towards that $712,000, that leaves us with $427,000 in total money required.
How do you know the amount for the closing cost?
We're using a calculation, but typically it's about 3%. So the closing costs are going to be like whatever the hard money lender charges in points, which is usually 1 to 2 points. And then the closing costs, which is typically going to be 1 to 2 points when it comes to, lien search, title search, settlement fee, so on and so forth. So we usually use an average of about 3 to 4%. So that's how we came up with the 21,000. Make sense? So that's that. So 142,000 gives us, if you take 427,200 and you divide it by 3, what does that give you?
How much? I left my
142,400. So each investor is going to come in with 142,400. There's 3 slots available, as you can see here on the ownership details, at 10% each. And then they're going to cover the 427,000. The hard money lender is going to cover the rest. We're going to execute this project. And in about 8 to 12 months, we're going to start leasing the property out, and it's going to start to generate income. In this pro forma rent roll, as you can see down here on the bottom right, we have projected of $12,450 of monthly rent when this is fully occupied. Once that happens, to the left here, where you see in orange, you see the rental rate at $12,450. You multiply that out by 12, it gives you $149,400 for rental income for the year. You subtract the mortgage, which is what we're going to refinance into, which is about 6.25% rate. The taxes, the insurance. We put property management there of about $4,482, which is roughly what we would pay per door for a management fee to come in here and help. How much the maintenance would be on a yearly basis, because it's a newer building, we're going to have less maintenance after we're done with the construction. And then we got to project in their vacancy of 5%, 3735. Gives us a net of about $30,000 a year in cash flow. Okay. Now, this back up to the mortgage. The mortgage of $84,000 a year is projected based off of a refi loan of $1.35 million. And that is based on a $1.8 million valuation. This is important because if the cash flow can support that 1.8 valuation, then the bank will give us a loan because it's commercial. If it was residential, it would be more based on the property and comparables around it than it would be the actual income of the property. Make sense? So in this case, we have a 1.26 debt service ratio after all these calculations are done, which is important because most banks want you to have at least 1.25 or better. 1.25 debt service ratio gives you essentially a 25% cushion above what the monthly expenses are in case there's a vacancy, in case there's an emergency, in case something happens. You don't have to come out of your pocket to take care of the situation. Make sense?
Okay, and if we're going back to cash flow, it's $2,226 a month that's cash flowing, and you divide that between all the investors?
No.
Or how do you divide it?
Well, what are you trying to figure out?
Contract. Yeah. Ariana?
How much, if I am investor 3, for example, me, I am investor 3, how much would I get each month?
Of course. So you're going to get 10% of that amount. Once you have your money out. If you have your money in, you're going to get 7% of your money first, right? So, for example, at 142,400, you're looking at $830 a month. Okay. So $24.92 a month is what's required at a 7% dividend for the investors. Okay. And we have 22.26 here of net operating income. So almost all of the net operating income is going to go back to the investors until we refinance out. The good news is we're refinancing out once we get fully occupied. So once we get fully occupied, instead of getting 7%, you're going to get 10% of the 22.26, okay? Which is roughly about $222 a month. It's not a lot of money. However, it's $222 a month with none of your own money in the deal. I have essentially given you back your $142,400. You're getting $222 a month of just free money, basically an annuity. And as you can see here, you have equity of $45,000 in the deal. So since the property is worth $1.8 million, you have $45,000 of equity of your money in the deal that really is not your money. It's basically what we refinance out of the property. It's the appreciation that we forced by actually improving the home.
And that's because the bank is going to give you 70% of the 1,800,000.
75%, correct. So we
75%.
still have 25% equity in the deal. And that breaks up into $450,000 in equity, as you can see here under the equity tab. $450,000 in equity breaks out into $45,000 each for the 10%. Okay, if you calculate the equity you have plus the preferred dividend we're paying of 7%, plus the annual net operating income you're going to get, it gives you a 21% internal rate of return on your money year over year, and 10% equity in the deal. So as that equity grows, so does your stake in the deal. As the cash flow grows, so does your cash flow every single month. And that $142,000 you put back out, now you can decide to go put it in another project and start that annuity going, if you will. So what I mean by annuity is that money starts to just keep coming in, and your balance sheet, meaning how much equity you have in the property, continues to grow. Now, I know I went through a lot and I kind of bounced around the sheet a lot, but this essentially is everything you need to know in terms of how this building is going to work and whether it's a deal. The reason this property is a deal is 2 reasons. Number one, as you can see the 0 here, down here, park money post refi. When we refinance, we're going to be out of this deal completely, meaning all of our investors are going to get 100% of their money back. We're going to execute the rehab at $484,000. The debt service at 1.26 covers for the loan we need to get at 1.350. Okay, and the owners get their 20+ internal rate of return on their money. So it basically checks off all the boxes for a good investment. Now, there are going to be times when an investor is not able to get all their money out. There are going to be times when possibly the debt service is lower than expected. But there's also going to be times when we exceed what we thought we were going to get. And when we actually are able to refinance more out than we initially anticipated. Okay?
If completion is taking a year, how long do you think it's going to take you to refinance?
Well, refinance will happen as soon as we have at least 50% of the building occupied.
And in your experience, how long would be that after completion?
Well, in this case, you only have 8 units. So the idea is to finish 1 floor first and then complete the 2nd floor. So by the time we finish 1 floor, we will prioritize 1 unit, make that the model, stage that model, start to really push people to come in. So essentially, as the units are completed, we're moving people right in. Since there's only 8 units, there shouldn't be a whole lot of time before we're able to bill it. And as you can see here under promotional holding costs, we have allocated $30,000 for us to incentivize people to say, hey, here's a month free worth of rent. You know, hey, let us give you some money towards, you know, your utility bill or whatever the case may be. Giving them incentive if they sign a lease early. Make sense? Any
Yeah.
other questions?
So you're gonna do the rehab and at the same time put people in, that way when we get to 4 units that are completed, we can do the refinance. Even
Yeah,
if the other ones are not
start the
completed.
The idea is to start the application once we have 50%, leased out.
And how long does a refinance application take?
Typically 30 to 60 days. Any other question?
No.
Great.
Not right
We're
now.
excited about this opportunity because we do think it's a win-win all the way around. The investor makes 21% return on their money. Us as the general partner is able to essentially structure this deal where we can put in our sweat equity, meaning since we put and structure this whole deal together and we execute the project, if we do it properly, we're able to be rewarded with, you know, the amount of ownership that we're going to get. And we're able to uplift that specific building, force the improvements, and essentially create an asset that is now fully optimized and is able to essentially give back to both the people renting it, the value of the surrounding areas, and to the investors now having the confidence to continue to move forward and grow their money together with us.
Ralph, in my specific case, I have 50,000
Right?
that I would like to invest.
Right.
Do you think that it would be better for me to do a couple flips, that way I can build up to get closer to 142, or should I just put them here?
That's a great question. And flipping and doing this approach, which is a glorified burring, right? We're burning the property, buying it, we're renovating it, we're renting it, we're refinancing it, and then we're repeating the process. Essentially, one is grows your balance sheet, and the other one grows your bank, you know, your cash flow in your bank account and your money. So everyone has a different growth goal. And if your goal is to earn cash quickly, right, and you're not so worried about building wealth, then fixing and flipping is the right approach. But if you're worried about building wealth, it'll take longer and you won't actually see the money coming in, but it'll grow on your balance sheet. Because at the end of 10 years, if you fix and flip your money, you'll successfully flip 20, 30 properties and you'll have cash to show for it. But if you burr, you're actually going to have, 7 to 10 properties with 10% equity in these projects, giving you 10% of the net operating income, having the opportunity to refinance that equity out while growing your portfolio and continue to reinvest. So they're completely different animals. They both grow money, they just grow it in different ways. So that's more of an internal question to decide whether or not one approach is better than the other. Okay. So thanks guys for the opportunity to share with you exactly how these multifamily investments work. I look forward to hopefully doing business with all of you. So I'm going to stop the video at this point.
Thanks, Ralph.
Thank you. Would it be possible to share that information with us?
Yeah, I was just stopping the video. Okay. Yeah, let me stop the video. I'm going to stop the recording.